Chapter 61. Piccolo? Krillin scratched his head. Isn't Piccolo dead? If that's so, Wheelo boomed, then please explain this. Piccolo, kill him. Raph! A voice yelled. Krillin wheeled, feeling the rush of air that heralded an impact and raising both hands to block. 5 times Kaioken? He caught 2 swinging fists, twisted and ducked under his attacker's reach, then planted a swift kick to their stomach that drove them skidding back across the floor. Panting slightly, he powered down, finally taking the time to study the attacker. Nail? A slow smile crept across his face. Heh, you scared me for a minute there. That there isn't Piccolo, his name's Nail. Dr. Wheelo paused, processor-augmented brain whirring away. Pardon me if I find it difficult to trust you. How many people are there walking around with green skin, pointed ears and antennae? You'd be surprised? Krillin said. Then a worrying thought struck him. Hold on, you had to amplify Yamcha's will to beat Tien, right? You can't make someone do something totally against their nature. But as far as I know, Nail doesn't have a shred of evil in him. What? A sudden chill came over the small fighter. Something about Nail, his eyes. It wasn't the red color that was undoubtedly caused by the vein-patterned mind control device adorning his head. It was something deeper, more subtle. Krillin wouldn't have noticed it at all, had he not once seen the exact same look from another. Piccolo, he breathed. He really is in there, isn't he? You bastards just brought him to the surface. He clenched his fists, turning to face Wheelo's life support tank, embedded high up in the wall. You don't know what you're dealing with here. Trust me, you don't want to let this guy loose, nobody's safe. And if he has all of Nail's power. Wheelo laughed cruelly. Fool. Do the words mind control mean nothing to you? Once I have seized upon a desire, total war on humanity in this case, the subject is mine to command. I assure you I am quite safe from him. You, on the other hand, Piccolo. Attack. It seems not even he knows who this strange creature is. I suppose it matters not. Whoever he once was, he will shortly be merely a shell, the perfect fighting body to house the perfect mind. Tien crashed to the ground, sliding on his back and colliding with the wall. Damn it all. I had an opening, but the only way to effectively exploit it was with a lethal strike, and I hesitated. He pretended to be stunned by the impact as Yamcha followed up, sprinting towards him. I won't fail this time. Yamcha's sweeping hand sliced into the floor, carving into the metal, but Tien sprang up, kicking Yamcha's other hand out of the way before he could block. I'll end this right now, YAH. With a full-bodied shout, he thrust both hands forwards, propelling an invisible wave of ki at Yamcha's head. The shockwave hit dead on target, causing the long-haired bandit to keel over backwards, tumbling head over heels for some distance before coming to a rest. Ow! Slowly, he sat up, rubbing his head. What, Tien? The mind control device on his head, cracked by Tien's ki, began to fall apart, pieces of plastic and twisted wires scattering down to the floor beneath him. Did all that just happen? Yeah. Din nadit. Wow, sorry, man. Hey, it's okay. Tien waved it away. Not your fault. He took you by surprise, right? Yeah. Hey, I did pretty good though, huh? Never thought I'd last that long against you. Well, normally you probably wouldn't be trying to actually kill me, so that may have been something of an advantage. Tien indicated Krillin, facing off against Piccolo. Come on, we don't have time to talk. Right, Krillin'll need all the help he can get for this one. Yamcha agreed, leaping to his feet. The 3 human warriors stood side by side, facing the demonic Namekian. So, this is Piccolo now, huh? Yamcha asked. Yeah, Krillin said, watching their opponent warily. Just like old times, huh? The half-hearted attempt at humor didn't receive a laugh. All were wondering if they stood a chance. We just have to destroy the headband, Tien reminded them. That should change him back to normal. Piece of cake, huh? Krillin grumbled. It began slowly. Wary, shuffling movements, then cautious steps. The humans circled to try and surround Piccolo, who paced like a caged animal, twitching as his eyes snapped to one fighter, then the next. The footwork continued, the warriors' circles of movement expanding until they were crossing the room back and forth, watching each other the whole time. In each combatant's head, the oncoming fight played itself out, potential lines of attack, techniques used and countered, tactics considered, until finally, someone attacked. Yamcha, of course, but the others soon followed. The distance closed until they stood at arm's length. The battle had still not begun in earnest. A feint, a tap, a brush, a narrow, deliberate miss. Testing the enemy's defenses. Piccolo's wild movements and still increasing speed were an effective counter for the humans' advantage in numbers. He seemed to face every direction at once, never leaving an opening. Eventually, Krillin decided he would just make an opening, going for an all-out attack. All right, enough of this. HAAF. Sweeping his arm out, Piccolo struck first, knocking Krillin to the ground. At once, Tien and Yamcha counterattacked from behind, and Piccolo spun in time to catch both punches. But while Yamcha had put all his concentration into that one attack, Tien was thinking further ahead. At the same time, his knee swung up, catching Piccolo on the chin. He flinched, but didn't retreat, kicking at Tien in retaliation. The 3-eyed man grunted in pain, grasping his shoulder where he'd been struck and jumping away. Yamcha took the opportunity to try another attack, but received an elbow to the face. Piccolo straightened up as his 3 enemies stood, rubbing his aching jaw. Well, it seems I underestimated you. I might have to use a little more power. His ki shot up abruptly, smacking into their spiritual senses like a brick wall. This was unexpected. Dr. Wheelo noted. He's capable of coherent thought. Usually, the subject goes into a berserker rage when presented with an enemy, it doesn't matter. As long as he eliminates these pests before the mind transfer is ready. Okay. Tian gritted his teeth, throwing off his cloak. There was an audible thump as the weighted training garment hit the floor, leaving cracks where it fell. His power's gone up a significant amount, and I can tell it still isn't his maximum. At our current power levels, we don't stand a chance. Right. Yamcha cracked his knuckles. Time to kick it up a notch. I've been training hard, I can handle the Kaioken properly now, up to a 5 times power up. So don't worry about me. Sounds good to me. Krillin grinned, and the 3 warriors initiated the Kaioken, World King's Fist, simultaneously, rapidly powering up to 5 times their base level. Piccolo nodded. Impressive. He beckoned with one finger. Let's go. The fighters attacked, and instantly the air was filled with the blur of high-speed movement. Piccolo danced between the human strikes with ease, still only using less than half of his full power. You call this an attack? Let me show you real strength. He swung both arms out, smashing Krillin and Yamcha out of the air, then somersaulting backwards over Tien as he threw a punch, kicking him in the back and flooring him with brutal force. Is that really all you've got? The Demon King growled. This won't do. I need a real enemy. You've got one right here. Tien shouted, standing his ground. Krillin jumped over to stand next to him. As one, they powered up to even higher levels, Kaioken times 20. They leapt forwards and before Piccolo could even raise a hand to defend himself smashed 2 fists into his abdomen. Having knocked him off balance, they aimed for the device on his head, but at the last second he regained enough initiative to jump back out of range, stumbling a bit as he landed. From that low X5 level straight to their maximum. Piccolo realized. It seems you aren't playing around. Very well, if you want to play it serious, then I'll just have to grace you with my full power. Previously, his ki had been like a mist surrounding him, a frosty bite in their minds. Now, though, it blazed like a fire, a mad drummer pounding in their heads. This? Krillin gasped. This is? Piccolo laughed, a grating, guttural sound. Impressed? You should be. Nail's power already surpassed that of an unmastered Super Saiyan, perhaps even rivaling the bulky ascended form. How long has it been since you last saw him fight? A year? He's had plenty of time to improve. His grin spread from ear to ear. Not to mention, he never really knew the full potential of the Super Namek. I kept a not insignificant portion of our full power locked away inside him along with me, it sustained me, allowed me to survive within him, and grew along with my malice for my soft-hearted host. Now, our combined might is mine to command. All right, enough talk. Tien declared. We can't keep up this kind of power for long, so, Krillin. Now? Now? Tien and Krillin blurred forwards, 2 blazing red figures crashing into Piccolo, who slowly backed away as he blocked the incoming barrage of attacks with some effort. Not bad, you have more potential than I'd given you credit for. Even a basic Super Saiyan wouldn't last long against an onslaught like this. However, my power is somewhat. He dropped back onto his hands, thrusting both legs up and kicking his attackers each square in the face. Greater. They turned the fall into a controlled landing, immediately charging back into the fight, trying to catch Piccolo off balance. He hopped up to his feet, swaying around Tien's flying kick and swinging the flat of his hand around at Krillin's neck. However, it merely met an afterimage and Krillin appeared behind him, fist aimed at Piccolo's head. Grunting with the effort, the Namekian spun, bringing one hand up to catch the punch before it hit him. But this sudden, strenuous move to defend his back left his front open, and Tien exploited the opportunity, hammering the demon with a vicious chain of attacks. Piccolo fell back, snarling. Damn it! One-on-one, this be easier, but both together are too much, and it's damn hard to separate them. He resumed his defensive stance, watching the pair of fighters approach, waited as they raised their arms, focusing ki into their fists, then without warning sprang into motion, zipping across the room in a sudden burst of speed. The human warriors swung at empty air, each wasting a large amount of energy on their powerful attacks. Stumbling, they fell to their knees, breathing heavily as their Kaioken auras faded. Interesting. Piccolo nodded. A good plan, potentially. You assumed I'd stand my ground. Try and counterattack, underestimate your speed and take those hits. Too bad for you, I noticed your extremely focused energy at the last second. I knew the augmented strength and speed of those attacks would be too much for me to handle, so I figured I'd let you waste your energy without having to take the hit myself. I guess it paid off? He grinned toothily. The Kaioken is an extraordinary technique, but it's no good in a war of attrition, you'll lose all your strength too quickly. And on that note, die. Piccolo roared, leaping at the tired fighters and building energy in both hands. The counterattack, when it came, was the result of careful planning and silent movement. He knew he'd only get one shot. He knew the element of surprise was his one advantage. And he knew a 5 times increase wasn't enough. Wolfang Kaioken! Hai! Yamcha burst out from beneath the ground, slamming into Piccolo from underneath, elbow first, and following up with a close-range volley of attacks. A 2-handed ki sent Piccolo flying, though the demon managed to shield his head and the mind control device, and Yamcha didn't stop to appreciate his handiwork, immediately firing his strongest ki blast. Kamehameha! The beam smashed Piccolo straight through the wall, shockwaves rippling out behind it, cracking the ice outside for over a mile back. Somewhat spent as well, the scarred warrior helped his companions up. You guys okay? Never better, Krillin joked. That was a great move there, he never saw it coming. Thanks, Yamcha said darkly. But I don't think it finished him. I can sense him coming back this way. All right. Let's just break the thing on his head and be done with it, Tien said firmly. Right. Krillin raised his fists. Let's do this. Together, the three ran towards the opening in the wall, just as Piccolo charged back through it, boiling with anger. I'll never be defeated by a bunch of humans. He spat, throwing a brutal, uncontrolled punch that cracked into Yamcha's face, hurling him limply away. I won't allow it. He caught Tien's fist, twisting the man's arm painfully, at the same time letting fly an energy blast with his other hand, blowing Krillin across the room. Pathetic? You can't even maintain a decent power level for more than a few seconds. Enough with this cliché villain crap. Tien swung his free hand up, Kaioken aura flaring brightly, but Piccolo's had flicked sideways. A thin cut opened up on the Namekian's cheek as Tien's fist brushed past him, then he reached up and caught Tien by the wrist. Pulling the martial artist towards him to add momentum, he unhurriedly kneed him in the stomach, then let go, watching Tien fall to the floor next to his comrades. What an interesting effect the control device has had on this one. Dr. Wheelo observed. Hopefully, he should still be subservient to my commands, once his desire to kill these three has been fulfilled. As soon as he's done, I'll initiate the transfer. Well... Piccolo raised one hand, building energy between his fingers. Enough fun for now? This might be it. Krillin winced, preparing to try and dodge. If we could have just been a little faster. Piccolo leered at the dismayed faces of his enemies. If you plan on making your peace with your gods, now's the time? The ki blast he was preparing grew as his power intensified. Now, what's? His eyes widened as a previously hidden energy source burst to life, shooting across the room behind him. Another one, eh? Before he could make an attempt to face this new presence, they fired an energy beam in his direction. He smirked, such an insignificant power, and casually blocked it with his forearm. Is that all you can do? Whoever you are, you're even weaker than. You're wide open. Piccolo swung around again to see Tien bearing down on him. The demon lashed out, catching his attacker in the chest, but Tien fought through the pain, grabbing Piccolo's attacking arm between both hands, swinging the demon over his head and slamming him into the floor. Gra. Piccolo felt blood rising in his mouth, the ground buckling beneath him. Krillin appeared in a blur of speed, directly above him, a triumphant grin on his face. Time seemed to slow down. Realizing he was all but beaten, Piccolo's stomach lurched. It was too late to stop it. Oh, sure. Hiya? Thrusting both hands downwards, Krillin launched a powerful ki that drove Piccolo further into the ground, the recoil blasting Krillin up into the air, where, almost completely out of energy, he failed to stop himself, arcing ungracefully across the room and painfully bouncing to a halt. Ow ha ha, hey, nice work, guys. Right. Tien stood up. But who was it that distracted Piccolo? Not Yamcha. This being due to Yamcha currently lying in a heap on the floor, not having yet recovered from the direct hit to the face he'd taken. So who? Just little old me. Launch stepped out from the shadows, giving a thumbs up. Tien's face lit up. Hey, you got here after all. So break? The little terror finally went to sleep. So what's the story? Tien shrugged, a little vague on the details. Well, evil scientist, mind control, sort of thing. Oh, okay. Launch pointed over at the downed Namekian, who was slowly stirring. So, I heard some of what you were saying before. Is that Nail, Piccolo, what? I'm not quite sure. Krillin admitted. Let's hope he's back to normal, but be on guard just in case. Ugh. Nail stood up, last remnants of the mind control device falling from his head, friendly light back in his eyes. Weapon? Den stood on the edge of the lookout, talking with his assistant. You still feel homesick sometimes? Mr. Popo asked. Den shrugged. It comes and goes. Sometimes I think I'd like to see Namek again. Sometimes I think I just get bored after having seen all I have. The genie remained silent, sensing his young master had something more to say. But it's more than that. I wonder, do they need me? Am I really that important? What do you mean? You're the guardian of Earth. Yes, but Earth has so many incredible defenders now. I've been observing the battle in the north. Even without the Super Saions, they're handling themselves fine. I haven't really contributed at all. But you created the current set of Dragon Balls, Mr. Popo reminded him. Those have seen quite a lot of use recently. Oh, yes, wonderful. Den sighed. What a wonderful job I do of existing. My point is I'm not actually doing anything. It could be any Dragon Clan Namek, maybe one with more experience than me. Much as I hate to interrupt you. The odd-looking man inclined his head slightly to one side. You said you were observing the battle in the north. Yes, what of it? I can't explain it, but I have a terrible feeling. I fear all is not well. No, it seems they've just about got it won, actually, Den said, smiling. Dr. Wheelo's run out of servants to throw at them. Something flashed into his mind, a realization almost tangibly sharp. Wait, I sense something under the surface, Mr. Popo. We have to go there, now. What? I need to warn them. They're not out of danger yet. Den's grip on his staff tightened with white-knuckled intensity. But my telepathy hasn't developed to the point where I can talk to them from this far away yet. Is there any way we can get there, fast? The genie nodded. There's one way. Yeah. Nails back to normal. Krillin yelled happily. The restored Namekian rubbed his forehead. I don't remember much. I came in here, then some kind of weird red light and nothing after that. What happened, guys? It's kinda hard to explain. Krillin began to tell him. You were kind of Piccolo for a bit. This left Nail even more confused. Let me summarize, Launch said, patting Nail on the shoulder as she echoed Tien's words. Evil scientist. Mind control. Okay? I see. Nail looked up towards the far wall. I remember he's over there, huh? Hey, Wheelo. The game's up. You're done. If you think so, you are gravely mistaken. The half-dead scientist's voice replied. It appears my reserves are not entirely exhausted. Units 12, 21, 34. Provide a momentary distraction. On cue, 3 of the black Cyberman-looking creatures sprung out from a quickly opening hatch in the floor, aiming themselves directly at Nail, who stood at the front of the group. Expression unchanging, he simply powered up, the force and heat of his expanding aura ripping the creatures apart. What kind of distraction do you call that? One that works? Dr. Wheelo's voice took on an even greater air of smugness, if that was possible. The activation process has begun now, you cannot stop it. Even as he spoke, the wall around his life support tank began to crack and split, arcs of electricity running up and down the room. As I said, I only needed a momentary diversion, and those 3 provided it. What's he doing? Krillin wondered. Whatever it is. Nail muttered. I'm starting to feel an enormous power, He grimaced as the full weight of the Nuki source hit him. Everybody, get out of here. Now. He's charging up for something. Wah? Yamcha, still lying on the floor, finally summoned the strength to sit up. Hey, what's going? He saw the room collapsing around him, heard Nail's warning, and looked up just in time to see the massive energy wave rolling towards them. Oh, come on, he complained, before it engulfed him and everyone else, spreading out in all directions and swallowing up the whole fortress, completely destroying it. Ice flash melted for miles around, creating a miniature ocean right in the middle of the glacier. Nail was the first to pull himself out of the water, heaving Yamcha's beaten body up onto the ice before clambering out himself. Tien followed, giving Launch a boost as she climbed with him. The 4 fighters lay panting on the ice for a few seconds, before the sensation of the new energy signature getting closer forced them to stand and face it. It was, naturally, a giant robot, rising slowly, leisurely, even, out of the ocean. There was little else it could have been. It was black, with blue-ribbed elements and fish-like spines in places, and roughly bipedal. Despite its curved design, it was far from sleek or graceful. What was strange about it, though, was the fact that it had a detectable key, unlike any other mechanical being they'd encountered before. The head portion contained a transparent section, through which Dr. Wheelo's brain was visible. This is bad. Krillin groaned. Maybe we'd have been better able to withstand that attack if we hadn't just used up all our energy beating the crap out of each other, but right now I don't know if we can put up much of a fight. Just as he finished speaking, Den and Mr. Popo materialized out of thin air, stood atop a hovering carpet. Den's face fell, seeing Wheelo's robot body. Damn it! I'm too late. Time to die. Wheelo boomed, raising a gigantic, claw-like limb.